Hi everyone. I welcome you all to this week one of prompt engineering masterclass. Okay, so this is Adya Balaji here. So this week basically lays the groundwork for everything you will build over the next 30 days. Before you become precise, advanced, and domain specific, okay, you must understand basically how AI responds, interprets the language, and follows reasoning instructions. So that is what you're going to actually learn in this particular week. And basically, you're going to understand here what is the first most important thing, that is our title, that is the prompt engineering. Prompt engineering is basically the science and the skill of communicating with large language models in a way that produces predictable, structured, and useful responses. It is not asking questions, but it is basically designing your instructions to the chat GPT, because LLM, the best example is chat GPT, and most of us, we prefer using chat GPT. So, for example, one of the poor prompt is like explain solar energy. Okay, now a improved version of this prompt can be like, you are a science teacher. Explain the concept of solar energy to a 12-year-old using simple language and three bullet points. So, how does this actually feel? Okay, so this is how you're going to improve in the type of the prompt you actually give once you're done with all the 4 weeks. So to begin with, what is actually a prompt engineering? Prompt engineering is not just asking questions, it is designing the conversation, controlling the AI outputs with precision. So you control the output, okay, of the AI. That is what is prompt engineering is. You ask the question in such a way that it gives you an output that you are actually expecting. That is prompt engineering. And prompt engineering is nowadays in a very high demand. There's a lot of buzz about this. People get a very high pay in the field of prompt engineering. So it is basically a discipline of designing and refining the inputs to large language models like ChatGPT to elicit the most accurate and useful and controlled outputs. Okay, large language models like ChatGPT, they don't think, okay, they predict the next token. Now, here is what something most important. What's the token that is we are going to see in the coming topic, and they respond on how you frame your input. So everything is based on your input. Whatever type of input you ask, you are going to get the output based on your input. Okay, so it's said that the better your prompt, the better are your results. Now, what is actually a token? A token is the smallest piece of a sentence that a computer understands. Now, let us take this as an example. I love Chat GPT. Now, if you break this down into tokens, okay, so it can be like four words like I love Chat GPT and the punctuations. So these are the four tokens. Okay, so that is what is meant by token. So basically, how does LLM work? Okay, so LLM predict the next token. Okay, so that's what I actually meant by a token. Okay, so here we understood what are tokens, and here is how it plays an important role. So the LLM, the large language models, they predict the next token based on the input they receive. So your token is very your input is very much important, because based on that your outputs are. Token are nothing but basically an output. Okay, so they have no true understanding but mimic the patterns in the data. So LLMs, they actually don't understand anything. Okay, they are mimicking the patterns in your data. Okay, so they are very much sensitive to context, phrasing, and prompt clarity. So that is why you people are here, okay, learning this prompt engineering, because the chat GPT, okay, or the LLMs, they are very sensitive to the context and phrasing and the way you actually ask them the questions. Okay, and LLMs have a very limited number of tokens they can consider at one time. At one time, okay, an LLM can actually consider only 4K, 16K, and 128K tokens. Now, this is how actually LLMs work, because when you're using ChatGPT, you should know LLM. Now, what are some of the common issues in LLM? Okay, the first one is hallucinations. Okay, so it fabricates the facts. If most of the time the output that you get might not be an exact one, or a or something that is based on a real-time data, or a something like a fact. Okay, it actually creates its own facts. Okay, ambiguity is the second most common issues in the LLM. Okay, it it has a problem with misunderstanding unclear instructions. So if your prompt is not good enough, then the chat gpt can misunderstand it and your output can entirely go wrong. And bias, okay, so sometimes what happens, you have a chat window and you have been chatting with the chat gpt for quite a few times. So when you ask the question, a particular question, what it does is it takes the previous inputs that has been there in that particular chat and gives you the output based on that. Okay, so that is the one of the thing. Okay, so that is what is known as the reflecting the training data. Now, here's the most important thing, that is the types of prompts. Okay, the first one is the instructional prompt. Okay, so here is something like you summarize this article in 3 bullet points. Instructional prompts are very much widely used in the prompt engineering. Okay, so you take a particular article, you feed it to the chat gpt, and you actually say that I want you to summarize this particular article in 3 bullet points. So you're basically giving an instruction to the chat gpt, what is the type of the output that you are expecting. Second one is the role based prompt, okay, known as role prompts, one of the most widely and highly used type of prompt. Okay, you are assigning an identity to the model. Okay, you say that you are a legal expert and then you frame the task that you want it to be actually doing. Okay, you want it to be doing. Okay, so zero shot prompts are something like you are not providing any example or something, just you directly provided in instruction and a question, it has to do it. So it has no example to look for, and knows what type of an output you are expecting. One shot prompt, okay, so you just provide it with one example provided to guide the model. Few shot prompt, multiple examples are provided to guide the behavior. So here what happens in the one shot prompt is that you just give it one example and say that this is how I am expecting my output. And in few shot prompt, one shot and few shot are very much same. So okay, here you're just providing one example, and in few shot you provide few examples and say that these are the type of the examples that I can give it for you, and based on these examples you can go through it and give me an example, an output based on this. Okay, so a chain of thought prompt is something very much important. Normally, most of the time, what happens is that instructional role and chain of thought are very much combined together to frame a single prompt to the chat gpt. So you are encouraging the chat gpt to think step by step reasoning and give you the output. Now this is very much useful for the students who are preparing for examination, where they are preparing for aptitude, logical reasoning and all. So this is very much helpful for those students. Self consistency prompts, okay, so generate multiple output and select the best one. Okay, so you ask a single question multiple time and then you go through the different outputs and you select the best one that is okay for you. Now these are the types of the prompt which are very much important. Okay, so if you go with an example, that is, I'm just taking this example for you to understand so what is actually a weak prompt and what is actually a strong prompt. Okay, so you tell the chat gpt, tell me about ai, and then there's another way of asking it, that is, you tell the chat gpt like, you are a professor of AI. Explain the large language models to a 10th grade student in 3 bullet points. So here what is happening is, first thing you're telling the chat GPT, see boss, you think yourself as a professor first of AI, and then explain me this particular topic, and you have to explain me at a level also you're telling. So you're telling the level, that is, you want it to be explained as if ChatGPT is explaining it to a 10th class student. Okay, and that too in how much points you want, that also you've been telling. So there's a combination of instructional and a role based prompt. Now activity for the viewers, okay, pause now and just write your first 3 prompt using the above technique and add them to your prompt journal. Prompt journal is something very important. I do maintain my prompt journal. So prompt journal has all my different types of prompts that I use. It helps me to actually uh, always improve my type of prompt that I'm giving to the chat GPT. So this is your first task. Pause, write your first 3 prompts, see what are the type of output you get, and then include it in your prompt journal. Now the first set of the prompt is the instructional prompt. You give a clear instruction to the model to do something. Okay, that is the example: summarize the paragraph in one sentence. Okay, so input paragraph is the internet has transformed the way people communicate, shop, access information, all these things. That is the input paragraph. Okay, and then you get the output. So here in the instructional prompt, what is happening is you give the command and then you ask it, you also give it a particular task. Okay, what is the task that it needs to do? So you're giving it an instruction. Okay, so this is an example of the instructional prompt. The second one is the role prompt. You ask the model to act as a specific role: teacher, doctor, coach, etc. Okay, you are a history teacher, explain the world war in simple terms. Okay, in fact, why not, let's just give it a try for the instructional and the role prompt and see how does we actually get the result. Okay, so this is my chat GPT. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask it. Okay, going to give it a role based prompt. I'm going to say it, consider, okay, yourself as the world's best world's best doctor, and give me a plan to improve my immunity. So we'll see what does actually changes. So say absolutely, I'll speak to you like a top functional medicine doctor who wants to build your immunity. So it gives you like all this. This is the type of the output you actually get. So in fact, it actually gives you a weekly plan also. Okay, so this is what is actually a role based prompt. So it gives you very precisely what type of supplement, everything you need to take and to give. Okay, so for example, we need to check actually instructional prompt. Okay, so we will go to Google. Okay, so why Google? Okay, we'll just take some news article. Okay, some news article we'll take. Okay, we'll take about cricket. So you don't have that much time. What is this return in this? Okay, so I'll just copy this and go to chat GPT, same prompt. Okay, uh, I want you to and just paste the entire article and just click enter. So let's see how does actually ChatGPT gives us the output. So it also highlights you the most important. Yes, Yashasvi Jaiswal scored an unbeaten 116 runs despite his match winning since Jaiswal is unlikely to retain his spot in the next ODI series because Rohit Sharma and Shubman Gill are the preferred opening pair. So it functional directly gives you this, but rather than reading this much and all 4, 6, all these things. Okay, so this is just an example of actually instructional and a role based prompt. So similarly, you can try on your own giving different prompts. See, the more the number of prompts you give and you get the output, you become an expert in it. Okay, that's what is actually required. Not just seeing this video. Pause this video, go to ChatGPT, give multiple prompts. It's not going to cost you anything. Second one, the third one is the zero shot prompt. Okay, you give a task without any particular example. So here is the example: summarize this sentence. Artificial intelligence is changing the way business operate. It will give you a random answer: AI is transforming business operations. But you did not expect this, but this is what you will get when you don't give it any example, because it doesn't know what is the type of the output you are actually expecting. Okay, the next one is the few short prompt. Okay, you give few examples before asking the model to continue. So you give example 1, example 2, and the main sentence, and then it gives you the output based on the previous two examples. The next one is the chain of the thought prompt. So this is what I said, the students are very much likely to be benefited by this type of prompt. Okay, because if you give a question like this: a train leaves at 3 p.m. and travels 60 km per hour, how far it will go in 4 hours? Think step by step. So it will think step by step and give you the answer. So this actually helps a student in preparing for his particular examination. Now, what is self consistency prompt? Okay, self consistency prompt is something like that: you generate multiple answers using chain of thought command, okay, prompt, and then you pick the most consistent one. So here there is a probability question, and you run this particular question multiple times, and then you select the answer that is having a majority. That is known as self consistency prompt. Consistency means if you are getting the same consistent answer, then you select that particular majority answer. Now, role prompting. Okay, again, so here you assign a persona to the model for better, okay, contextual response. Okay, so you are a university professor explaining the quantum physics to high school student. Okay, and you can ask any question you want. Okay, you are a customer support agent for a travel company, then you can ask, give me how should I speak to my customer, how can I make them agree to a booking, all these things. Okay, you are a senior legal consultant reviewing a contract, all these things. Okay, so you give a particular role and you tell that this is the question. Now, role prompting and output structuring, this is the most important thing. Okay, so see, you give a particular role to the chat gpt, the doctor, professor, or a best coder, and then it gives you the output. But what if you can structure the type of the output you want? Now let us take an example. You give chat gpt, consider yourself as the best researcher, summarize this particular article for me and give me the research gaps. Now what if the chat gpt gives you just in bullet points because you have not mentioned anything? But what if you mention in your prompt, give me in the form of a table? Okay, so you are now structuring the output. Okay, so in what way you actually want the output? Okay, or you want it in bullet points, or you just want it in numbered points, or you just want it in tables, or you want in json format or yaml format. Now json and yaml format are something that is very much related to coders, not for normal people. If you're into coding, then yaml and json formats are very much important. Normally the ChatGPT gives in the json format. Okay, so this output structuring techniques is something that actually helps you to get your, not only get your output. Okay, to get your output you are going to use the type of the prompts. Okay, but output structuring is the way in which you want the particular answer. Now I'll just give you an example. Okay, you in the previous question we asked the chat gpt that I give me how can I improve my immunity. What if I tell the chat GPT here to give me a plan in a table format? Okay, now here same thing. Okay, I will tell the chat GPT, okay, give me, I'll tell just give me a plan for 1 week in table format, including days, and time. And you just click on send. Now you see here, whatever output you get, that will be entirely different from what you actually got earlier. Okay, so you see it is very much precise now. Day is there, daily. Okay, daily what you need to do. Okay, and it also give you special additions by day, day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. Now everything is in the form of a table. Okay, so this is what actually means by output structuring techniques. Okay, now the most important part is that exercise for the viewers. Okay, pick 5 different professions. You can pick anything, write a role based prompt, control the output into different formats, evaluate how actually role assignment changes the tone, vocabulary, and the output structure. That is something that is for the viewers, for you. Now all these exercises are very much important. If you're carrying out your exercise properly, then when you come for the next week, you will be very much well aware of these foundational topics. Without these foundational topics, it becomes very much difficult for you to actually carry on. But by the way, just know that prompt engineering, just doing this particular 4 weeks of masterclass is going to help you a lot. Okay, and you see how much efficient you will become in your work sector and how fast you will finish your works. Okay, now that is a particular task. These all things is going to take just 5 to 10 minutes of your time. It's not going to cost you any money, but it's going to need, or it's actually requires your interest into it. Okay, so if you want to become a prompt engineer, then you got to work hard. You got to see by actually giving different inputs and actually get different outputs and develop your prompt journal. Okay, once you're done with your prompt journal, any task, it just takes some minutes for you to finish. Okay, so the next one is the chain of thought prompt. Okay, so why actually chain of thought actually works? Okay, it actually gives or forces the LLM to check step by step. Okay, now what happens here is that you have asked a particular question, it directly gives you an answer, but you don't know if it is. ChatGPT also doesn't know if it's right or wrong, because it ChatGPT has a problem of hallucination. Okay, so when you are asking ChatGPT to think step by step, it also goes step by step and it verifies if each step is correct or wrong. So it reduces the issues of hallucinations. It improves the multi-step problem solving. Okay, so for example, you can give a math problem and say, give me all the calculations. Okay, so ChatGPT will not go wrong anywhere. Okay, second one is you can ask it a logical reasoning question. If A is taller than B or B is taller than C, who is the tallest? Think step by step. Okay, so this is very much important for the students. Okay, that's why I said chain of thought prompting is for the students, researchers. That will really help you a lot. And you can also go with medical diagnosis, give these symptoms and then tell you to give the answer in step by step what are the possible causes. Okay, so the exercise for you is design minimum 10 chain of thought prompts. Okay, analyze how explicitly requesting step by step reasoning changes your answer. Okay, you ask it to give step by step answer, and another type of prompt where you are not asking, and then you see how your outputs are actually different from each other. Okay, so that's a chain of thought prompting for you. That's all for the week one. So in basically in week one, we have actually gone through the what is prompt engineering, why prompt engineering is important, what is a token, what is an LLM. Okay, and what are the different types of prompt. Okay, and how to use multiple prompt together, what are the type of prompt and the examples, and mainly the exercises for the viewers. Okay, and the next thing that we actually went through is that how you can structure your output response. Okay, the type of prompt gives you an output, but not the output that you're asking for. But if you go for an output structuring, it also improves the efficiency of your output and gives you the output in the format that you actually require. Okay, so that will be all for the week one. Okay, so we'll meet with the next week contents, and slowly keep practicing these types of prompts, and by the end of 4 week you're going to be a master in prompt engineering, I assure you this. But most important, hard work, discipline, consistency. These three things are very much required for you to master any particular area. Okay, no problem. You have 1 week of time. Daily you practice just one type of prompt by giving 10 different questions. And by the end of first week, you will be a master in all the different type of prompts we have discussed today. Just give it, just see the output. That's all. It doesn't matter right or wrong. By the time you reach your 10th prompt, okay, you will be an expert in it. So 10 prompts for each different types of prompt, you will be an expert, and you can start developing your own prompt journal from here. Okay, so thank you all. This is Atya Balaji signing off for the week one. We'll meet in the week two. Okay, thank you.